François Toussaint, born on May 20th, 1743, remains a somewhat enigmatic figure, with little known about his early life. It is believed that his father, Ganu, was the younger son of the king of Alada, a West African kingdom. Unfortunately, Toussaint's family was sold into slavery and transported to the Caribbean. Despite the severe hardships of enslavement, Toussaint was fortunate to have a relatively enlightened master who allowed him to learn to read and write. Immersing himself in the classics and the works of Enlightenment thinkers, his beliefs and ideals were deeply influenced by these readings. He also developed a strong devotion to Catholicism during this time. Toussaint's intelligence and dedication helped him gain expertise in medicinal plants and horsemanship, skills that did not go unnoticed by his masters. His talents quickly propelled him to the position of chief steward on the plantation. According to legend, Toussaint was granted his freedom in 1776, the same year the United States declared independence from Great Britain. Despite his newfound freedom, Toussaint chose to continue working for his former master. In 1782, he married Suzanne Simone Baptiste, and together they had 3 children, Placide, Isaac, and Saint-Jean. On August 22, 1791, a major revolt broke out in the French colony of Saint-Domingue, located on the western half of Hispaniola. Inspired by the ideals of the French Revolution and fueled by centuries of oppression, the enslaved population rose up against their oppressors. Initially, Toussaint was undecided about joining the rebellion. At nearly 50 years old, he was married with a family, managing a small plot of land and overseeing a plantation. However, as the uprising gained momentum and reached his vicinity, his stance shifted. Toussaint's decision to join the rebellion was driven not just by a desire to protect his lifestyle, but also by his deep Catholic faith, which opposed slavery and the ideals of Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who championed the inherent equality of all people. His first priority was ensuring the safety of his wife and family, whom he relocated to the Spanish-controlled eastern half of the island to shield them from the chaos. He also arranged for his former master's family to be sent to the United States. Joining forces with Georges Biassou's rebels, who had allied with the Spanish against France, Toussaint embarked on a new path of resistance. Using his knowledge of African and Creole herbal medicine, Toussaint served as both a healer and a soldier, providing medical aid to the troops while also fighting in battle. His abilities were quickly recognized, and he rose to command a group of 600 black former slaves. Under his leadership, this force grew into an army of 4,000 well-organized soldiers. Among his ranks was Jean-Jacques Dessalines, an escaped slave who became a trusted confidant and skilled lieutenant. During this time, Toussaint adopted the surname Louverture, derived from the French word meaning opening or paving the way. Amid the turmoil of rebellion across the Caribbean, European powers engaged in strategic maneuvers to protect their interests. The British, concerned that the slave uprising might spread to their colony of Jamaica, sent troops to suppress the revolt in Saint-Domingue and weaken French control. In response, the French National Convention took decisive action, granting freedom and citizenship to all black people in the empire in 1794, in an effort to maintain colonial authority and win the loyalty of the black population. However, the British remained determined to destabilize France's hold on the colony. After the French emancipated the slaves, Toussaint shifted his allegiance to the French forces, turning against Spain. His first major goal was to seize the Spanish-held territory of Santo Domingo on the eastern side of the island, even though this meant fighting against former comrades who remained loyal to Spain. Demonstrating exceptional leadership, Toussaint's troops successfully took control of Santo Domingo. The Treaty of Basel, signed in July 1795, ended hostilities between France and Spain, leading to the withdrawal of Spanish forces from Hispaniola. Toussaint then focused on neutralizing the remaining British troops, ultimately driving them off the island by 1796. By this time, Toussaint had become the most powerful political and military figure in the colony, revered by the freed slaves whose liberation he had championed and respected by the French authorities who still held nominal control. With hostilities between European powers temporarily halted, Toussaint turned his attention to addressing internal unrest on the island. Before 1791, the mulatto population, who had not been enslaved, had owned slaves themselves and now sought to reclaim their former property. In 1799, with the help of Dessalines, Toussaint defeated the mulatto army after a year-long struggle, marked by allegations of atrocities. As the de facto ruler of the entire island of Hispaniola, Toussaint implemented a new constitution, reiterating the abolition of slavery and proclaiming himself governor-general for life. He wielded near absolute power, aiming to restore stability to the island. To revive agriculture and boost the economy, Toussaint forged trade agreements with the British and Americans, exchanging sugar for arms and goods, while also assuring them that he would not threaten Jamaica or the southern United States. In defiance of French revolutionary laws, he allowed plantation owners who had fled during the rebellion to return, while enforcing strict discipline among the workforce and implementing reforms to improve labor conditions. In 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte seized control of France, bringing about a new constitution that allowed for special laws in French colonies. Toussaint and his supporters feared this might signal the return of slavery. To ease these concerns, Toussaint did not push for full independence, instead pledging his allegiance to France, hoping to convince Napoleon of his loyalty. Napoleon, in turn, confirmed Toussaint's position as colonial governor and promised not to reinstate slavery. He also prohibited Toussaint from invading Santo Domingo, the eastern part of the island where French authorities were trying to restore order after the Spanish left. However, the temptation to assert full control over the entire island proved too strong for Toussaint. In January 1801, his forces invaded Santo Domingo, quickly taking control with little resistance. Toussaint enforced French law, abolished slavery, and began modernizing the region. Enraged by Toussaint's actions, Napoleon sent his brother-in-law, General Charles Emmanuel Leclerc, along with 20,000 seasoned French troops to restore order. These troops, hardened by European campaigns, posed a formidable challenge to Toussaint's forces. Despite Toussaint's valiant efforts, his coalition eventually crumbled after months of intense fighting. Many Europeans and mulattoes on the island sided with the French, and even Toussaint's most trusted generals, Henri Christophe and Dessalines, defected to Leclerc's side. By June 1802, the situation had turned decisively against Toussaint. Lured into peace negotiations by French General Jean-Baptiste Brunet, Toussaint was captured and taken to Fort de Joux in the Jura Mountains of France. There, he endured harsh interrogation and eventually died from pneumonia and starvation on April 7, 1803. Shortly after Toussaint's death, Dessalines switched sides again, taking command of the rebel forces against the French. Through a series of victories, Dessalines' coalition of blacks and mulattoes forced the French to surrender and leave the island in 1804. Dessalines then declared independence and proclaimed himself emperor, establishing Hispaniola as the world's first independent black republic. Although Toussaint did not live to see this, his efforts set off a chain of events with far-reaching consequences. His actions marked the beginning of the decline of European colonial dominance in the Americas. Napoleon, faced with an uncontrollable rebellion in Hispaniola, decided not to pursue further expansion into North America. Instead, he sold the Louisiana Territory to the United States in 1803, paving the way for westward expansion throughout the 19th century. Additionally, Toussaint's legacy inspired revolutions across Latin America in the following century and galvanized American abolitionists in their fight against slavery. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share.